Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about the movie My Teacher's Wife. I'd really appreciate it if you like this video. It means a lot to me. The story starts with three friends opening letters from Boston University, revealing their exam results. Even though all three passed the exam, their math teacher, Roy Miller, refuses to sign a recommendation letter for Todd, simply because Todd failed the class. Sitting by the river, Todd is drawing a caricature of his teacher when he suddenly hears a scream. The scream comes from a woman on the other side of the river. She apologizes to Todd for scaring him, but Todd just screams back, showing he understood her joke. Sadly, when he looks again, the woman is already gone. Later that evening, the group of friends attends a party thrown by one of their classmates. While Paul is busy trying to impress a girl, Karsten invites Todd for a walk in the park. As Todd and Karsten start kissing in the park, Todd pulls out a condom, but this move doesn't sit well with Karsten, and she walks away. Meanwhile, a nun approaches Paul, and he starts following her. After Todd's failed attempt with Karsten, he gets in his car to leave. Just then, Paul, who's now running from the nun, hops into Todd's car, and the two drive off together. On their way home, they notice a woman whose car has broken down. It's the same woman who had scared Todd earlier. She immediately recognizes him too. The two friends decide to help her by giving her a ride. While driving, Paul compliments the woman on her car, but she mentions it belongs to her husband and complains about him for not packing a spare part. They stop at a diner where the woman calls a tow truck, but it won't arrive for at least an hour. To pass the time, the two friends treat her to ice cream. When it's time to pay, the woman covers the entire bill, but Todd insists on at least leaving the tip. While he struggles to calculate it, the woman quickly does the math in her head and tells him the exact amount. As they get back in the car, she casually mentions that she graduated from the math department, which explains her skill with numbers. Todd, feeling a connection, opens up about his struggles with math and how failing is ruining his chances of getting into college. The woman, acting like a mentor, reassures him that everything will work out. Before she leaves the car, Todd asks if she would tutor him. The woman, whose name is Vicky, says she'll think about it and let him know if she can help. When Vicky arrives home, her husband greets her, and it turns out her husband is none other than Todd's math teacher, Roy Miller, the very man who failed him. Even though Todd tries to sneak into the house, his father catches him. His dad expresses his disappointment, saying they've invested so much time and effort into getting Todd into college, but he couldn't even pass a simple math exam. His father offers to help him find a private tutor, but Todd proudly says he's already found one. This makes his dad proud. Todd returns to the river where he first saw Vicky. Soon, Vicky appears and begins undressing, saying the answers Todd is looking for are written on her body. She hugs him, but suddenly a man with a gun appears, shouting, "That's my wife!" and fires a shot. At lunch, Todd tells Paul that Vicky has agreed to tutor him. Meanwhile, Karsten apologizes to Todd for what happened before, saying she just needs a little more time and that if he's patient, he'll get what he wants. Later, Vicky arrives at Todd's house and his dad answers the door. Surprised by how attractive Vicky is, Todd's father asks if they're really just going to study math. Skeptical, he decides to test Vicky by asking her a question from a math book. When she gives the correct answer, he leaves them alone and heads out. Todd is completely captivated by Vicky during their tutoring session. The next day, he helps Paul move some stuff, and Paul exaggerates Todd's relationship with Vicky, even though they've only been studying together. Despite this, Todd's math skills start to improve thanks to the lessons. Feeling confident, Todd calls Vicky right away, inviting her over for another tutoring session. As soon as the call ends, Karsten shows up. Worried that Karsten might get jealous, Todd lies and says his tutor is an old, overweight woman. Karsten seems reassured. Later, Karsten reminds Todd about a gathering their friends are having that evening. But Todd says he has a tutoring session, though he'll try to make it if he can. While Todd is lying in his robe, Vicky walks into the room, saying warm words as she starts undressing. Suddenly, the phone rings. It's Paul asking where Todd is. Todd quickly tells him he can't make it. Vicky returns to Todd's house another time, and Todd's dad offers to watch a game with her. However, Todd's mom reminds him that Vicky is there for a tutoring session, so she's sent upstairs. As Vicky looks through the pictures in Todd's room, he scrambles to hide anything suspicious. Meanwhile, Karsten shows up at the cafe to keep Paul company. After the lesson, Vicky offers Todd a ride to the diner, and they head there together. When Karsten sees Vicky, she realizes Todd had lied about what his tutor looked like and leaves in frustration. The next day, Todd asks Paul if Karsten mentioned anything about him. Yes, Todd had messed up by lying, but Vicky was something special, something different. Later, Karsten confronts Paul, asking if Todd had said anything about her. Karsten is certain Paul knows something, but he keeps quiet to protect his friend. During class, Miller asks a question, and Todd confidently answers it. Impressed, Miller tells him that if he keeps this up, he'll get that recommendation letter after all. Excited, Todd immediately shares the news with Vicky and invites her for another lesson. This time, Vicky invites Todd to her place, saying she wants to show him her work. At her house, Todd is fascinated by Vicky's projects. When he asks why she hides them, she explains that she's afraid people will think she's crazy, at least her husband does. Their marriage isn't going well, which is why she enjoys spending time with Todd. Vicky then shows Todd a gift she made for him. Todd, overwhelmed, kisses her. Though Vicky is caught off guard, she briefly kisses him back, but stops before things go further. Later that night, Todd tells Paul everything that happened between him and Vicky, revealing that their encounter became more intense than he had expected. Paul isn't too thrilled to hear all this, and Todd accuses him of being jealous before storming off. After Todd leaves, Paul opens the door to find Karsten standing behind it, having overheard everything. The next morning, Todd tries to sit with Karsten, but she immediately gets up and leaves, clearly upset. Confused, Todd is blindsided when Karsten loudly reveals his relationship with the tutor to the entire cafeteria. Todd, shocked, confronts Paul since he had only confided in him. Paul then admits that Karsten overheard everything that night because she was hiding behind the door. Todd realizes Paul might have done it on purpose because Paul has feelings for Karsten. In the middle of their confrontation, Miller, their teacher, arrives and punishes both of them for fighting by making them watch his car. As they approach the car, Todd has a flashback. It's the same car Vicky was driving the day it broke down. Todd now understands. Vicky is Miller's wife. Seizing the opportunity while Miller goes fishing, Todd confronts Vicky and asks why she never mentioned that she's married to Miller. Vicky says it's irrelevant to her. Todd, puzzled, asks how she could have married someone like Miller, who seems rude and toxic. Vicky explains that Miller wasn't always like this. Just as they're having this conversation, Miller returns, and the two realize they've chosen the worst possible time to be talking. A brief game of hide-and-seek ensues as they try to avoid him, but before leaving, Miller asks Vicky where the other printer is since he's trying to print out a recommendation letter for Todd. Vicky tells him it ran out of charge, and after Miller leaves, Todd quickly sneaks out. Later, Todd sits alone in his room, feeling like he's lost everything: his girlfriend, his friends, and even his teacher's trust. His father comes in, and Todd tells him everything. With understanding, his father advises him that life will always bring such complications and that it's better to end this relationship before it causes more damage. The next day, Todd is walking through the hall when Miller approaches him, holding a notebook he found in the garage. It's Todd's notebook. Todd panics and accidentally admits to making a big mistake. Miller, surprisingly calm, tells him he's only made 2 mistakes and shows Todd his grade. He then reveals that he knows Todd has been studying math with his wife and says he's going to sign the recommendation letter for his university application. In class, Miller uses Todd as an example, explaining that his strict teaching style is what leads to success. After class, Todd tells Miller that being harsh isn't the right approach and that students don't deserve to be treated this way, words he borrowed from Vicky. In response, Miller bluntly asks if Todd slept with his wife. Without waiting for an answer, Miller heads home. Todd tries to warn Vicky, but she doesn't hear her phone. Miller arrives at the garage furious and starts smashing things. Todd rushes in, and after exchanging a few tense words, Miller unexpectedly congratulates Todd and extends his hand for a shake. Shocked and unsure of what to do, Todd apologizes to Vicky. She, in turn, thanks him, saying she should have left Miller a long time ago. When Todd asks what she's going to do next, Vicky replies that she's moving to New York to pursue a career in sculpture. They part ways and Miller hands Todd the signed recommendation letter. During his interview, when asked why he wants to attend the school, Todd answers, "This is my father's dream," but deep down he knows it isn't what he truly wants. Later, Todd tells his parents that he doesn't want to go to Harvard and instead wants to attend art school. His parents, understanding and supportive, don't make a fuss. After that, Todd heads to the usual spot where he meets his friends. He pulls Karsten aside to apologize and asks her not to cut him out of her life, despite everything. The three friends sit down and talk about where they see themselves in 10 years. According to Todd, Paul will be working on his own supercomputer, and Karsten will have released her own album. Paul, jokingly, says Todd will be a cashier at a Beam store. And with that, the movie ends. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.